Here to help set the record straight, our panel of Supreme Court experts. Elizabeth Wydra is the president of the Constitutional Accountability Center, and Carrie Severino is Chief Counsel and Policy Director for the Judicial Crisis Network. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us because everyone's hearing a lot of different opinions. So, Elizabeth, I want to start with you because we have certainly two different messages coming down from just the Senate, who we need, obviously, to approve this nominee. We hear Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Charles Grassley, say, listen, I have a 6-week timeline. I'm going to get everything passed, and he's going to be passed through the Senate in 6 weeks. But then you hear some Senate Democrats say, we're not even going to meet with the nominee. So what do you predict for the next 6 weeks?
Well, look, I mean, the fact that the Senate Republicans put on hold a Supreme Court nominee that was put forth by President Obama for a year and kept the Supreme Court at only 8 justices, to say that they have to rush this through is just preposterous. There needs to be time to give a really careful review of Judge Gorsuch's record, a hearing where they can ask him these important questions. We need to know that he is going to be an independent check on unconstitutional actions by the executive branch, by the political branches. We've seen that Donald Trump doesn't like it when judges do things that he doesn't like. We saw that today when he called the so-called judge, who was a George W. Bush appointee, striking down, putting on hold, rather, President Trump's travel and refugee ban. We saw on the campaign trail when he criticized Judge Curiel, when he ruled against Trump's business interests, calling him out and criticizing him based on his Mexican-American heritage. So given that Donald Trump likes judges to do what he wants, Judge Gorsuch has a heavy burden to show that he will uphold the tradition of being someone on the bench who follows the Constitution and the law and doesn't do what the president who's putting him forth wants him to do and doesn't follow any particular political agenda.
Okay, you brought up Merrick Garland, and I want to get your opinion, Carrie, because we saw, obviously, for, like you said, a year, the court was a 4-4 vote. What would happen if the court continues to be a 4-4 vote? Let's say that there is a filibuster, that Republicans say, listen, I'm not going to bring in the nuclear option, and they just deal with the filibuster. What happens to policies and decisions that come down if we see that for another year?
Well, we would consider to see important cases going 4-4. I think what makes the most sense is obviously to move this through at the regular pace. The pace that Senator Grassley has laid out is actually giving longer time than the average time to a confirmation hearing. But honestly, the choice here of Neil Gorsuch was so smart because unlike some of the things we've seen with maybe this executive order, the rollout is perfect and the choice is so clear. He has a record specifically of what Elizabeth has talked about, of standing up for the law, regardless of how that aligns with his personal policy preferences. That's what he talked about in his opening statement when the president nominated him, that if you're a judge and you go home at the end of the day and every day you say, wow, I love the results in all those cases, you're doing it wrong. And he knows that. That's why we have people like Neil Katyal, who was President Obama's leading attorney in the Solicitor General's office, saying, no, this is someone who's fair and is committed to the rule of law. I agree. He's going to have a lot of tough questions for him, but he is uniquely qualified to make those decisions.
Well, uniquely qualified, and listen, some of these Democrats voted for him in 2006 when he was up.
Everyone voted for him.
Yeah, it was anonymous vote. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to vote for him now for political reasons.
Well, not political reasons. It's very different to be nominated to the Supreme Court than to be nominated to a lower court. First of all, lower court judges are bound by precedent set by the Supreme Court. They don't set that precedent themselves. And also now we have a record. We have a long record from Judge Gorsuch. And we see things that suggest that maybe he isn't ruling based on his view of the Constitution, but rather what he wants the Constitution to say. Because, look, we have a Constitution that over time has been amended to protect rights for example, LGBTQ Americans. The 14th Amendment says equal protection for all persons. And yet we have writings from him that suggest that he thinks that these are issues that should not be settled in the courts. Well, you know, it's concerning when the Constitution grants a right and it's an individual's right to go into court and vindicate that right, and he thinks that belongs outside the judicial process. So there are a lot of concerns based on his record that weren't there the first time he made it through the courts. But that's why we're going to have a robust hearing. There are going to be a lot of questions put to him, and he will have to meet that burden to show he is truly independent.
All right, Elizabeth and Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll have you back. Hopefully we'll see if there's a decision in the next 6 weeks, so thank you so much.